All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing amazing. Let's get started here. Go. Get that muted. Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to... Where is the music at? Here it is. And all right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 1462. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. How often are you finding yourself repeating that? The challenge with "it's my fault" is it's confirmation. And what do I mean by confirmation? It is the confirmation that says, my dreams I can't quite have. The desires I want just don't really mean enough. And all of the goals that I have, I'm going to have to start over. Now, see, you're not saying that. All you're saying is it's my fault. See, and what happens when you say it's my fault is that you constantly repeat that. Drop an MF. Well, no, let's not do that. Just drop an F if it's your fault. If you've ever said it's my fault, just drop an F in the chat. Right? My fault. And the reason is, oh man, that's my fault. And here's the challenge. Is that it probably is your fault. Wait, what? I thought this was supposed to be like motivation and lifting me up and filling me with joy. Yes, it is. Here's why I want you to know it's your fault, but it wasn't you who did the programming. See, you didn't know any better. How many of us, when we have our little kiddos, sometimes they just don't know any better, and they don't know any better, and we let them off the hook. Well, here's the challenge. You ready for the challenge? Is that about 99% of what you believe is because of somebody else's influence. The accent you have is where you were born. Didn't have much control over that. The name you were given, unless you recently changed your name. I haven't met anybody who's legally changed their name. Maybe I have, and they didn't tell me. Usually there's a story behind that, and they would like to share it. Most of the programming you have is what causes you your limitations. It's the identity you've taken on. It's the identity you've assumed, called you're just like your aunt. You're just like your dad. How many of you have ever been compared to family members? Right? You're just like your race. You're just like your culture, right? Sometimes I'll do some things that are very Irish in nature, and somebody will say, oh my God, you're so Irish, right? Or even, right, my mother was Jewish, and sometimes I'll do some things around some of my Jewish friends, and they'll go, oh my God, you're so Jewish. Anybody ever been identified as their culture, as their heritage? Drop an H in the chat if you've ever been identified as your heritage. You're so foreign. Yeah, that's another one. You're such a foreigner. From other foreigners, they say that. So here's my point. When you say it's my fault, it's time to take responsibility. Because sometimes when we say it's my fault, what we're really doing is giving ourselves a way out. And we don't necessarily need any more way outs. You follow me? We don't need another way out. We need a way forward. I was doing a training the other day, did an amazing training on addiction to approval. Oh my goodness. I went through not only you and some of the language that you use to limit your beliefs and capabilities and capacities. I also took you through your archetypes and went through the addictions and the solutions to those addictions based on each of your archetypes. So I went through your sovereign, your king or queen, your magician, your lover, your warrior, and we had conversations about it. And we're doing all of this inside a dangerous consciousness. So if you'd like to be on that waiting list, you can go to dcwaiting.com, DC, dangerous consciousness, dcwaiting.com, and you can get on the waiting list for when it opens back up. There's probably been close to $20,000 already generated by this community because they're becoming consciously focused on the activities that work and that move them forward. And one of them is your self-talk. the my fault stuff. Why does this always happen to me? Why do I always do this? How many of you have ever said that? Why do I do that? Listen carefully. If I were to ask you this question, why do I do that? My question to you is, who is the I in that statement? Is it the same I, listen carefully, is it the same I that when you say, I am a rank 10, I am a #1 network marketer, I am the best business person, is it the same I? Is it the same I that says your affirmations? Do you now see why your affirmations seem to struggle most often? 98% of the population falls short of their affirmations they read personally, because the same voice that says, why do I do that? It's my fault, is the same voice that's reading, and it's the same energetic field that's reading, I am rich. On or before December 31st, I will have $100,000 in my bank account. It's the same voice. And the brain looks for two things. Will it kill me, or how fast could I recognize the pattern? And when it recognizes the pattern of your voice saying crazy stuff, which it considers crazy stuff because there's no evidence of it. When you say, why do I do that? Isn't there enough evidence of it? See, this is literally a math problem. If you're going to motivate yourself, your brain says, review, investigate, determine, can I actually be there in that moment? What evidence do I have that any of this exists? This is why Napoleon Hill talks about having faith, blind faith. Wallace D. Wattles says it's not about doing certain things, it's about doing things in a certain way. You want to know the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge? Here's the biggest challenge. At a subconscious level, the wounds that you carry are still wounds. They're not scars. As soon as they turn into a scar, Paulo Coelho in his book, Manuscript Found in a Cross, says, the cop to the main character says, the scars you carry. They say, well, we're just a small band of people. How will we fight this? How will we intimidate them? And he says, the scars you carry are stronger than the sword that made them. You want to know why sometimes people don't believe you? Why people lack the confidence they need to follow you? It's because you're speaking from your open wound. You're speaking from it's my fault. Why do I do that? That's the voice you're speaking in when you're put under pressure. It is your default mode. There's something in the brain called the default mode network. And the default mode network is when you're not consciously aware. It's when you go into your default. It's when the environment is not influencing you. And let me give you an example of your default mode network. A big part of your default mode network happens when you continue to drive back and forth to work over days and weeks and months and years, and all of a sudden you drive home. How many of you drive home and you forget that you drove home? You're pulling into your driveway and you're like, oh my goodness, there's the dog. What? I don't remember any of the drive home. That's because your environment isn't stimulating an exchange of information. It's the same. Well, Joe Dispenza says your personality makes up your personal reality, or your personal reality makes up your personality. You know anybody who's grumpy? You know anybody who comes to work and on a Monday they're grumpy, Friday they're like over the moon happy? When you say it's my fault, why do I do that? That is your subconscious running the patterns that keep you stuck, period. Well, I need a new script. How much confidence do you have in the script because it worked for somebody else? That phrase, that conversation, if I can do it, you can do it, puts so much stress on people. The other one that puts so much stress on people is tell me your why. Tell me your why. I need to know your why. Give me your why. I want you to think about when you were growing up as a child and you got in trouble. You broke something. You did something. You hit somebody at school. You did something silly. Whatever it is that you did. What's the first thing your parents asked you? Type it in the chat. What's the first thing your parents asked you? Exactly. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? And now we get into network marketing. Somebody got this wild hair of an, listen, I was there. I was the one on stages in 30 plus countries talking to people going, tell me your why. Tell me your why. What's your why? What's your why? What's your why? Until I understood, until I became a brain trainer certified by the Amen Institute, till I became a neuroencoding specialist. When you have a thought, how it triggers your body. And listen to Brene Brown. How many of you have ever heard Brene Brown? She says, no one could ask for your story, can hear your story without your permission. The reason is that your why is bigger than any why you simply spout off at the top of your head. Unless, of course, you've got your DMP in place, your definite major purpose. So all of these things, all of this stuff that runs around in your head, all of this stuff that happens to you at a psychological level, how many of you have had a thought recently? How many of you have had a thought recently? And in having that thought recently, how many of you, you felt something in your body? You felt a little knot in your stomach. You just had a thought and you had a knot in your stomach. You just had a thought and your hands started to get clammy and sweaty. You just had a thought and your body starts to hurt. That's called neuroencoding. And typically the reason neuroencoding takes place is because of a phenomenon that happens to 99.8% of the population, something called addiction to approval. You may tell me and argue with me till you're blue in the face. I don't care about anybody's opinion. Great. Do you drive a car because it's a cool car? Did you avoid buying a used car because you didn't want to look like you were broke? Did you buy a watch that you're overpriced on? Are you in debt because of things you bought because you wanted to be in the flow, you wanted to look the part? Are you making payments on your tattoos? Listen, I'm just asking you. This idea that you're not addicted to approval is one of the biggest addictions to approval. So, it's my fault. How do you stop that? Well, a dear friend of mine, Daniela Jukic, Gratitude with Danny, DANI.com. You can learn more about her. Teaches this thing now going on 3.5 years called Gratitude. She doesn't teach it. She just goes through her life story and shares it with you and shares the book that comes out of one of the authors and the creators of The Secret, a book called Magic. And it allows you to, what Wayne Dyer says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. So I'll leave you with this. How do you get out of this challenge? How do you get out of my fault? You ask a QLQ. In psychology, there's a phenomenon, there's a training, there's a technique called the quantum linguistic question. It's different than NLP. NLP is me using language to program you. QLQ is you using language to deprogram you and elevate yourself to a higher level. I'd rather you use QLQ than have somebody else program you. You've already been programmed long enough. So the QLQ might go something like, if I accept it as my fault, and I also create the solution, who do I become when I have more positive moments in my life? Who do I become when I'm more in tune to the moment and no longer have to blame myself for feeling less than? Who do I become when I elevate my thinking to a solution-based conversation? Who do I become? Because here's what happens when you ask the brain goes out and searches and it needs an answer. It has to have an answer. That's why you wake up in the middle of the night. How many of you ever woken up in the middle of the night remembering somebody's name 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours after you met them, going, oh my goodness, right, that's their name. Drop a W in the chat if you've ever woken up or interrupted a conversation and went, that's their name. And all of a sudden the name popped up. You became awake with their name. The brain is constantly searching for the solution and the answer to any question you pose to it. The challenge is that many of the solutions that you have are a copy or a duplicate, a revamped duplicate of an old solution that didn't serve you either. The brain doesn't want to have to spend energy searching and seeking. That's why many of you, some of you, most of you, many of you might struggle with meditation. If I were to ask you right now, some of you, a handful of you could probably do it. If I were to say, let's go sit down and do 2 hours of meditation, 2 hours of not moving meditation, 2 hours of sitting still meditation. Some of you would say, I could do that, but how soon would it be before your eye opened up and you'd be going, is anybody else moving? Is everybody else's eyes closed? How many of you have been in prayer? How many of you have been in prayer and let's everybody just take a moment of silence and you're opening your eyes, seeing if anybody else is opening their eyes? Type I in the chat if you've ever kind of been trying to sneak a peek to see if everybody, you see what I'm saying? 2 hours, 2 hours. It would be a challenge for many. That's because your brain is spending energy to go find a way to answer questions you've posed to it that it has never had the time to answer. So how do? You ask the QLQ, who do I become when I get to say it's my success? Who do I become when I get to say it's my solution instead of my fault? Einstein said the problems that are made with the mind of man cannot be solved with the same mind that created them. Translate that into farm boy language. The thinking that got you here can't get you out of here. It's required to elevate and shift your thinking to another plane of awareness. And when you use a QLQ, a quantum linguistic question, it changes the way you see answers. And then I would encourage you, write down, send out 3 messages of joy, of gratitude, of love, of hope to other people that are around you. Send them the poop emoji and say, here's your Hershey's kiss, right? Have some fun with it. If you're not engaging the world, many of you are saying, when is it going to be my time? Drop an MT in the chat if you've ever said, when's it going to be my time? You're seeing other people around you succeeding and moving forward. When's it going to be my time? You see other people who seem like they're doing less work than you, and you're doing more work and you're working harder on it, and they seem to be accelerating and elevating, and you're still kind of feeling you're stuck here. When's it going to be my time? Well, it's your time right now. This is about having more, creating more, and doing less. The challenge is that you are doing what Cal Newport in his book, Deep Work, says you're doing shallow work. Darren Hardy in his trainings says science and research has done studies that multitasking is a disaster. When the second you have a trigger that pulls you out of your work, Cal Newport says you're in deep work. Darren Hardy says if you're in deep work and you have a trigger that pulls you out, switching to another task takes 23 minutes to get back on track into the same level of work. And if you're doing shallow work and it takes 23 minutes, how long do you think it might take to get back into deep work on your goals, on your dreams? This is why I started the program called Dangerous Consciousness. It's from now until the end of the year. It's a monthly program, daily conversations. We're doing things to rewire your brain, customized random calls of programming that accelerate your learning process, that are done live and in person to you by the community. Imagine if you had somebody that was in your corner holding you accountable, helping you reprogram based upon the desires, the wants, the wishes. Imagine if you had somebody read your affirmations to you. Might you believe it more? Might you feel it stronger? Might you be more excited about it? What if you could, in the next 60 days, truly rewire your brain and be on the path to the success you know you're capable of? It's already happening, and we're in week 2. I know how powerful this is. Remember, just to give you a little heads up, I'm a certified brain trainer by the Amen Institute. Pretty powerful organization. Certified neuroencoding specialist by Joseph McClendon III and his community, the Neurocoding Institute. I teach mental toughness from the Gove Seabolt Institute, certified and trained. I'm an addiction to approval coach, certified and trained. I'm a hypnotherapist, certified and trained. 5-time #1 best-selling author. My goal is to help you have more of what you want and less of what you don't. I've stood on stages in 30 plus countries, paid speaker, trainer in 30 plus countries. My messages have been translated into over 40 different languages. Is your mentor doing messages and trainings for the general public? Are they teaching their stories? Have they been asked to be paid? Have they been paid by the companies, other companies, to go speak and train? Or do they speak and train you because they're your upline? Not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Imagine being able to have somebody who understands and can train you that's in your company, in your organization. My question to you is do they get paid by other organizations to go speak and train? My daddy would say they're a one-trick pony. If you're looking to break free, to break through, to have the next level of awareness, you might want to reach outside. The challenge is sometimes when we reach outside, we get our hand slapped. How many of you have known somebody who's gone out to an outside trainer and they went, I think I'm going to use their program. And all of a sudden they're like, no, you can't do that. It's because they don't understand our company, our comp plan. Listen, I don't need to understand your company or your comp plan. I probably do. I probably know some of the top income earners in your company and in your plan. Are you here to build a check, or are you here to build a legacy? Because there's a chance you may decide to switch companies. That means your legacy has to start over. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So if you want to learn about dangerous consciousness, go to dcwaiting.com. I look forward to seeing you there. Hope you have an incredible, amazing conversation today. Ask yourself that QLQ, who do I become when I'm a solution-based soul and I get to say it's my success instead of it's my fault? I'm Sean Murphy. I'll see you all where? I'll see you at the next Brain Training Dangerous Consciousness event. Till then, bye for now. Go to dcwaiting.com to get signed up. And YouTube, love you tons. Appreciate you. Have an amazing, incredible, fun-filled day. And I will see you where? I'll see you at the next Brain Training Dangerous Consciousness event. Till then, bye for now.